Earlier today, 2 gunmen killed at least 7 students at a Jewish seminary in Jerusalem. Another 35 were wounded. This kind of senseless violence that has not been seen for years in Jerusalem made me long for the days when the threat of death helped keep people in line. You know, it helped prevent attacks and wars because most nations, most thinking, feeling human being saw death, as something that, was a bad thing. These days, not so much. Muslim extremists are now a new kind of enemy that are not only willing to sacrifice their lives, but they're eager to. In the words of Hezbollah leader Nasrallah, we're going to win because they love life and we love death. Alan Dershowitz, professor of law at Harvard University, author of Finding Jefferson, a lost letter, a remarkable discovery, and the First Amendment in the Age of Terrorism. Alan, it's weird that you're on today about this particular topic. I just read someplace about our first war with Islam, which was actually with Jefferson, with the Barbary pirates. What was the letter that you found, and what's the connection here?
Well, Jefferson went to meet the head of the Barbary pirate delegation in England and said, you can't be beheading Americans. This is the first experience America had with Islamic terrorism. And the ambassador said, we'll behead you at will, and if you kill us, we don't care. We're martyrs. We want to die. This was 1780. Nothing has changed. Now we have Osama bin Laden saying, we will beat you because you Americans love life and we love death. And you have these 2 people who go into a seminary, a school today, and just slaughter people and then die themselves. And I recently wrote about a mother who wants her son to become a suicide bomber. That's her goal for her son, to have him blow himself up or have himself shot after he kills innocent people.
I mean, Alan, how do we possibly fight an enemy that is now sending handicapped people in to be suicide bombers? They're sending their children in. Women are doing it. I mean, how do you possibly turn the tide here?
We have to change the rules. The rules now favor the terrorists. And by the way, on American universities today, you will find cheering for the terrorists, and if Israel were to dare to retaliate against the nest of terrorists from which these vipers came and killed one innocent civilian who was around the terrorists, you would have protests on every college campus about Israel's disproportionate response. We have to understand that these people who in Gaza today, as we speak, are cheering for the terrorists who killed these kids, or the people who cheered when 9/11 came and 3,000 people were killed in the United States. These are not civilians. They're on a continuum closer to being combatants than civilians. We have to change the law. We have to allow preemptive attacks that target the terrorists, even if they do occasionally kill civilians, particularly civilians who willingly put themselves in harm's way as human shields. The rules have to change.
Why don't we make it a war crime if you start to use children?
It is a war crime, but you can't get the UN to condemn it. The General Assembly is on the side of the terrorists. Many American professors are on the side of the terrorists. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch are on the side of the terrorists.
Let me ask you a question, because these universities are driving me out of my mind. You've got kids wearing Che shirts. They don't even know what Che is. You've got Hollywood glorifying it. Everybody, it seems, in these universities are spewing out. They're all rooting for the wrong side here.
Not everybody, Glenn. Not everybody. Not me, and not many of the others who are trying to explain this is not so different from what went on in the 1930s. When in Oxford University, people said, we will not fight against Hitler. Hitler is just a tin-horn dictator. And people on American campuses were opposing getting into the war against Germany. We have to fight Islamic terrorism. We have to take preemptive actions. We have to take some risks. And we have to make the civilians who support the terrorists take some risks. Civilians are not sacrosanct when they solicit help for terrorists.
2 questions. Let me bring it close to home. How do you change the culture in our universities?
Well, first of all, you have professors from all sides instead of professors just from the hard left teaching these subjects.
You know what? I have friends. I have a good friend who actually runs a very big university, and he said, Glenn, I have a hard time finding professors like that.
Oh, it's true. You know, in 45 years of teaching, there's no group of Americans with less courage than university professors with tenure. They will not stand up against any politically incorrect notions. They want to preach what the students want to hear. Many of them are leftover radicals from the 1960s. They're not teachers, they're propagandists. And they're using the classroom and they're using taxpayers' dollars to propagandize our students against American values, Western values, in favor of the values of terrorists, in favor of the values of those who would undercut democracy. Why should I go on a college campus, you see signs, gays for Palestine. You know what would happen to a gay for Palestine in Palestine? He has to seek asylum in Israel. Feminists against America.
Right.
Those kinds of values. These are people who are supporting values that would destroy them if those people ever came to power.
Alan, I can't wait to read your book. It sounds fascinating to me. I'm just so fascinated by our founding fathers and what we have lost from all of their experience. And
Right.
I'd like to invite you back because we've only got about 30 seconds here, and I want to invite you back because there is a culture of death that is happening here in America as well, and it's not just from Islam. Our kids we're worshiping the God, or our kids are starting worshiping the God of fame. And they're going in and shooting and then killing themselves for that God.
No, you're absolutely right. The big difference is the people who shoot themselves up or take the Kool-Aid, they're killing themselves, and that's a great tragedy. They're destroying their parents, but they're at least not going out and killing other people's children and destroying lives of other people in the interest of some philosophy that nobody can understand or want to accept.
We will love to have you back, Alan Dershowitz.
Thank
We'll
you.
be back in a minute. Stick around.